Ok, super. SEANERGY 2022. I'm glad to have you. I hope you've had a nice lunch. Now, before starting the first session, I'm going to ask Fanny Didou to join me on stage. She is our graphic recorder. And, you know, the person who's been drawing all these wonderful sketches that you've been seeing throughout these 2 days, that you're just seeing here behind me. No? Yes? Hello, Fanny.
Hi, Lisa. So
well,
you can see it here.
Yes.
Let's see if it's coming on screen. Yeah.
Yes, so just briefly, tell me what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So I'm graphic facilitator. So maybe you discovered something new during this event. So I'm the hand behind the screen with my wonderful team, the backstage. So Sabrina and the Blue Sign team gave me one mission. It was to capture the essence of the conversations visually. So I was here to support the dialogues, bring visuals and drawing, and try to make the big picture of all these elements, which are actually really connected with each other. Because, you know, when we talk about wind power, we need a holistic perspective. So I'm just going to give you one number. Did you know that 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is actually visual? So I think maybe I'm a bit ambitious, but my mission for this event is that maybe in a few months, you will remember at least one drawing, one small drawing, one little image from the visuals you've seen during these 2 days.
And she does that live. You know, it's not prepared, actually. She listens to the conference, to the panels here, and then she thinks, oh, what am I hearing? I'm going to draw it, right?
Yeah, that's live. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for all your drawings and all the drawings you're going to do over the afternoon.
Thank you.
Now we're going to start the panels of this afternoon. The first one is on innovation, and for that I'm going to ask Yves, CHIFFOLEAU, Vincent, LADOUGNE, and Christophe DESCOS to come and join me on the stage. Please take a microphone. Bonjour.
Good afternoon, Lisa.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. Mr. CHIFFOLEAU.
Yes, I am.
Yes, that's you, sorry. You're the business unit director, France, South Europe at DEME Offshore. And your company, talking about innovation, your company has some very innovative tools and methods to install offshore wind foundations. Tell us all about that.
Yes, indeed. And maybe we can start the presentation. Thanks.
There you go.
Oh. Thank you, Lisa. So, bonjour à toutes et tous. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining this presentation this afternoon. Thank you as well to SEANERGY, inviting us to present our innovation, DEME innovation for offshore wind. Thank you as well for our client, EDF Renewables, who has trusted us in our wonderful achievement of the Saint-Nazaire project, because I will illustrate this introduction to innovation on the Saint-Nazaire project. Thank you as well to Grégoire Lemierre and his wonderful project team who have delivered a fantastic project on Saint-Nazaire. So to start with, yeah, we are talking about innovation. To start with, this vessel, which is a DEME vessel, is called The Innovation. So it's just to illustrate that we'll be talking about plenty of innovation in this presentation this afternoon.
Is it not working? The green button normally?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. How do you make it work?
Maybe you. There we go.
There it is. Just before we start, just a quick introduction of DEME. I will not spend my time because there are more important things to speak about, and you can look at that on the web. What is important in this presentation is to look at is safety, sustainability, and innovation. The three of them are going together. One is implicating the other one. Everything linked. You've got good safety records, You can have as well, of course, profitable job site, because safety is triggering good profit, good safety, good profit. Sustainability, it's important that we are sustainable. It is something as well for which the young generation are expecting our company, DEME. Innovation, then we'll be talking about it, and that is linked as well to improving safety, improving sustainability. Another one which is important as well is that we were a pioneer in the market of innovation of offshore wind, and we continue to be, of course, in this field, and we have become a market leader in this offshore wind installation. Just to give you an example.
1 second, the slides are up there.
Sorry,
yeah.
Excuse me. Just to give you an example, sorry about that. DEME has installed about, depending on the year, up to 50% of the foundation in Europe. We have contributed to, in fact, it's not 74 projects, but it is 90. We have installed participated to 21 gigawatt installed, 2,000 turbines, 2,700 foundations. So it's a lot of works, cables, 3,000 kilometers. So it's a lot of contribution to the offshore wind. So I will be speaking about Saint-Nazaire, and it's just to illustrate our capacity for innovation and also the possibility of deploying this innovation on the next projects. It was a project we have participated to the Saint-Nazaire project on 2 lots. One was a lot foundation in a joint venture with Frères Metal, who were fabricating the foundations and DEME installing them. You may have participated to the presentation of Grégoire Lemire this morning. The second one that we had is participating to the substations together with Chantier de l'Atlantique and GE. And so we installed the substation of Saint-Nazaire. You all know that the project of Saint-Nazaire is commissioned for 2 turbines already, and it will be completed by September, October this year, and that Olivier de la Laurencie from EDF can tell you more about that. We faced on this project a lot of challenges, and again, I'm thanking EDF for having trusted that we were able to deliver this project, because it was a project full of challenges. The first thing was to install the monopile in large diameter. The diameter of the monopile was 7-meter diameter in rock. That is something which has never been done anywhere in the world. So it was the first thing. The second thing is that you know that the offshore wind in Europe, all the easy sites in Northern Europe in good soil conditions, sand, gentle wave, and swell, so have been installed. Everything is full. What is left now today to the installation company like ourselves, then is a difficult job site, difficult soil condition, marine condition which were difficult. In Saint-Nazaire is the full Atlantic which is coming to Saint-Nazaire, big swell, long swell. So difficulty, second difficulty. The third thing is that we had to seal as well these monopiles to the rock. So it was a challenge, a very big challenge that has never been done in this diameter and to this extent. The other things was that we were using coming with our jackup, the innovation, and it was to jack on rock. And that has never been done before. How do you dance on rock with heavy swell and so on? So we installed some special device on our jackup. I will come to that. And the last one, it was a first ever project offshore, industrial, in France. And I don't know if you have, for some of you who are foreigners, have ever worked in France. It's not Belgium, it's not Holland, it's not Germany, it is France. And you have to learn to work with it. Offshore wind, offshore doesn't exist in France. When you go to the Northern Europe countries, they are dealing with oil and gas. They have helicopters. They have plenty of things. They are used to offshore. In France, there is no offshore, so everything was to be created. There is hardly any DP vessel, so it is something that we need to work with. So it was the first project in France. And then it was also for us a challenge. So the first thing was about the drilling a hole into the rock in 7.7 meter diameter. How do you do that? So we look at the market, what the market was offering, and what was the market offering was not responding to our expectation. We were looking for an equipment which was reliable, robust, an equipment which was not also we had specifications, but we wanted this equipment to deliver a certain output production, a minimum one. So we said, what is the market offering? None of what we were expecting. So we decided to contact a TBM supplier, Eric Nesch, who is #1 in the world, tell him, now you know how to drill horizontal, now you have to help us to drill vertical. And he said, yeah, but I've never worked offshore. Okay, we can help you. We know what is offshore. We are an offshore specialist. We don't know to work onshore. So combining our expertise, then we can manufacture and deliver a tool which will be helping us to drill in 7.7 meter diameter in Saint-Nazaire. What we brought to them as well was our capacity to work in rock with rock cutter suction dredges, and as well to evacuate materials. Because if you drill fast, as we were looking for, then you need to evacuate the cuttings as quickly as you drill. So, and then we were specialized in pumps and how to collect equipment, equipment and evacuate them. So this was a challenge to them. So combining our skills, combining our, I would say, efforts, combining also good dialogue and trust, then we managed to deliver the tools that we have been using on Saint-Nazaire. It is a first. It has never been done. There has been a lot of interest by the industry. And we have even some, I would say, developers and contractors who have come all over from the world, including from Japan, to see what we were doing over there. So they were very much interested. It's a breakthrough. It is something which has never been done in this scale, to such extent, to such production. So it's a fantastic job, which is opening some new opportunities for us. Because now developers know that we can drill in this diameter. I've been talking to some people yesterday and today about our capacity for handling bigger monopiles in deeper water, in larger diameter and so on. I said, yes, we can do it. We don't have today the tools to do it, but we'll know how to do it when it comes. The second difficulty for us was we need to install a pile, and this pile to be stable and not subject to swell and to exposure of Atlantic conditions. And then we had to encapsulate, if I can say, the operation. So what we design is a tool with a partner, and we said we want to drill in a hole. And we want to this tube, if I can say, to provide many features, including grouting, facility for grouting, including the insertion of the monopile, including the stabilization of the monopile when the grout is curing. And then we design it with our subcontractor, TMS, and then we came out with the MODIGA. The MODIGA is monopile drilling installation guiding head. So, and grouting head, sorry. So, and then we developed this one. Again, something which was very new. Of course, this big tube has to be stable, resist to the swell, encapsulate and again dissociate, if I can say, the operation within the tube from the outside marine condition, and that worked. And then we have installed the 80 foundations at Saint-Nazaire, and all of them have been installed and grouted to the satisfaction of all parties, and quality has been there. And again, it is something which is opening the opportunities of working in oceanic conditions all over the world, basically. The next one was, again, a jackup. You know that a jackup, you are sailing, and then you are jacking up and then down. And then, of course, the criticality of this operation is when you are coming out of water, when you are on your legs, and then you are exposed to swell. So the swell is creating some, I would say, constraints and some movement of your vessel. And so that means that your vessel is dancing. And so in order to avoid it to dance, then you have to, and on rock, you have to stay on rock. So instead of having some big pad footings, then the innovation was resting on some diamond, if I can say, some rock tips. And so this is what we have developed again, and with some rock tip dampers. And that was, again, something which has never been done before. Then the next one also is that I said working in France, not easy, but we have managed to work with a lot of, I would say, companies from various fields as much as possible. They didn't know the offshore, as I said. We knew the offshore, but we didn't know how to work with France. So we have tried to meet in the middle of their expertise in working in France, our expertise in the offshore, and to find some relationship and to make them work as much as possible. So it has started with the Port of La Rochelle, with whom we have an excellent cooperation, working with some their agent, working with dockers. That has been a challenge as well. It has, of course, it's just illustrating what we found for this project, but there are some buoys as well that we installed for the noise monitoring, which were coming from France, some shackles, slings, and all the lifting equipment. So it is something as well that we source in France. So all that to say is that it was a good match that helped us as well, not only to perform the works, but also to get known and be able to work with the companies and the local communities. Talking about local communities, we had extreme and maintain a good relationship with the fishermen. So as EDF started this relationship a long time ago. So again, it's a success story with regard to safety, but also sustainability, environment, quality, innovation, of course, partnership with local contractors, partnership with some specialist and experienced companies, local content, I mentioned it, and also the works which was delivered ahead of schedule, 1.5 months ahead of schedule, which was again another success.
Thank you.
And then all done, yes, that was it for me. And then what is sure is that all this breakthrough, this knowledge, we will replicate it and develop it for new projects, including hopefully some other projects in France. And we are waiting for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Vincent LADOUGNE, you are business developer at ArchiMed. That's a company that specializes in the fabrication and assembly of steel floating foundations. Sorry. You also have a presentation, do you? Yes. First of all, for you, innovation, if I understand that right, means automatization and robotization. Is that right?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for welcoming us to this panel. So I'm Vincent LADOUGNE, ArchiMed and Ponticelli Commercial Director. Just before I move into innovation, just a few words about ArchiMed. ArchiMed is a new dedicated company for the offshore floating wind industry, created by two privately owned French groups, Ponticelli and Matière. So these two groups are working in energy and infrastructures business in France and in the world, and they are quite convinced that renewable energy is critical for their future. So they decided to set up ArchiMed as a specialist company for the floating offshore wind market. The scope of ArchiMed is the fabrication and assembly of steel floating foundations, and of course the ancillary services like float off and load out and float off, and integration of the turbines, and maybe in the future maintenance services. Our current positioning is to work for developers as construction package providers. So you've got the traditional structure of floating or offshore wind project in effect, with some developers setting up a specific project company and various construction packages So we've got companies like DEME delivering the T&I scope, of course, and we are on the left side delivering the construction of the floater, which is usually under design selected by the developer. So we are not designing the floater, we are barely manufacturing, procuring and constructing the floaters. And I've put on the screen an example of a project which we are currently delivering, which is the HOLGERSEN project. HOLGERSEN is our first client. It's a company set up by Total and Care in the south of France for one of the pilot farms that the French state initiated. And we are currently building 3 floating foundations of 10 megawatt each for this project, which will be delivered near Port-la-Nouvelle, which is a Gruissant city, and which will be operating in 2024. And then the focus of ArchiMed, because we are talking of innovation, is really to make this new industry. Floating wind is a new industry. It's completely different from bottom fixed. We've got new challenges, and we want to make sure that we can catch up in price with bottom fixed. So the aim of companies like ArchiMed is to make sure that we offer solutions to developers which are competitive enough so that in 5-10 years' time, you'll have floating wind projects as competitive as bottom fixed projects. And to do that, we need really to focus on industrialization and how we will manufacture those floaters under sort of mass production or to find ways of addressing a market which is increasing day and day, and to make sure that we can catch up in price with the bottom fixed projects. So in terms of innovations, what we have to face is 2 types of innovations. Of course, we'll have to design specific production lines for these items. So you can see a traditional design of, I'm not naming any design house here. As I said, ArchiMed is independent from any design house, but you see the traditional semi-substructure. And it looks very small on the drawing, but these items are absolutely huge, over 100 meters each side, 30 to 40 meters high, 4,000 to 5,000 tons. I like to always to remember that the Eiffel Tower is only 10,000 tons, so each of these floaters is the weight of half an Eiffel Tower, and there will be quite a challenge to build. So ArchiMed will set up dedicated production lines, first for the production of the components, what we can see, the columns, the beams, the pontoons. So these components will have to be produced with automatization, with dedicated lines, either for flat panel assembly line, depending on the design, or for roll plate welding lines. So we'll have, and we have started to work on that to be ready for facing the challenge of these commercial projects coming on stream in the second part of this decade. The second point is that once you've done the component in a factory, which is not necessarily at the same place as the final assembly yard, you also need to think about the yard and how you will build these floaters. So the assembly of the floater on a yard, because of the size of the floater, this yard will have to be on a quayside somewhere. So depending on the projects, we'll develop quayside facilities. Thanks to Région Occitanie, we've got a dedicated renewable energy site in Port-la-Nouvelle. So that's one of the candidates for being a hub in terms of this mass production of floaters in the future. And we'll have to develop tools to make sure that we can build these massive structures with dedicated supports, with modular access platforms, with some metrology tools, because it's 100 meters long, but the welding needs to be 1 millimeter precise. We'll have some welding tools. We'll have some robots for surface preparation and painting. So plenty of innovation, Lisa.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Just one question very briefly. You just talked about the French market. What other markets are you looking at right now?
Yeah, to start with, ArchiMed is focusing on the French market. So we've made some projection based on the French state announcement, which is about 40 gigawatt of offshore wind in 2050. if we take out of this 40 gigawatt, we may have over 25 gigawatt of floating wind projects, which is the top part. So the total market is the total number of floaters that we can anticipate. And to reach this target, still it's a long target, 2050, but when you look at the curve, we can see that the French market is already showing some great potentials with an anticipated market, which is the bottom part of the graph, of about 10 to 20 floaters every year, year on year up to 2050 for ArchiMed, if we capture only a part of this market, leaving also some space for our friends in the concrete world, because as you know, there are also some developers interested by the concrete floaters, which is for us not the future, but we still leave them some space, and we'll aim at producing with ArchiMed up to 20 or 25 floaters a year, which is already a great challenge. So 25 floaters a year, it's 100,000 tons of steel every year to process. So the French market is giving us great opportunities. Then if we can do that, be competitive, why not to export in other countries? If we are competitive in France, we can be competitive for other European markets. And I could do similar graphs for other European countries, which are all developing the offshore and floating wind markets. That's for the European market and the Mediterranean basin, but similarly, we've got great potential as well in Scotland, Norway, and in the North Sea. So the world is there. We'll start developing and implementing those innovations for the French market, and then we'll move on to the next countries.
Sounds like an adventure. Thank you very much, Vincent Ladougne. Now, all this innovation needs to be financed somehow. Monsieur Christophe DESCOS, vous êtes membre du directoire de la Caisse d'épargne en Normandie et président de Kiwaï. Dites-nous quelles différentes formes de financement y a-t-il pour de tels projets?
Oui, bonjour Lisa.
Bonjour.
Merci. I'm going to answer in French to be more efficient because we have only a few minutes.
In English?
Non, en français, c'est bien.
Français, d'accord.
Vas-y, oui.
D'accord, très bien.
Les différentes formes de financement. Alors, en quelques minutes, c'est compliqué d'être exhaustif, mais il y a deux grandes familles. La première, c'est évidemment se financer en fonds propres. Il y a deux façons, soit vous allez public equity, donc vous faites une IPO, c'est ce qu'a fait Hafner ou Life. Alors aujourd'hui, je représente le groupe BPCE. BPCE a dirigé les introductions en bourse de ces deux sociétés, donc c'est évidemment une façon rapide de lever de l'argent, ou vous allez chercher un mode private equity. Et je pense notamment à Mirova, Vauban, Venture, qui sont par exemple des grands fonds qui sont dans notre groupe. Ça, c'est toute la famille fonds propres, et puis qui sont évidemment la première grande famille pour financer ces innovations. Et puis l'autre famille, c'est la famille corporate. Alors corporate loan. Donc corporate loan, il faut être éligible, puisque ces innovations, il faut qu'il y ait une prédictivité du cash flow, donc c'est ça qui permet de lever de la dette, soit sur un mode corporate, soit sur un mode SPV, si le cash flow est contractuel ou prévisible. Voilà, c'est un peu les deux grandes familles, mais pour être très, très rapide sur le sujet.
D'accord. Et est-ce que vous diriez que les projets dans les énergies renouvelables, surtout l'éolien en mer, sont financés de manière différente par rapport à d'autres projets, ou dans quelle mesure ?
Alors l'éolien en mer, peut-être. En fait, ce qui est très délicat, c'est la complexité industrielle que vous avez à gérer, c'est-à-dire l'innovation. Et bien ça, cette complexité industrielle, elle entraîne deux choses. La première, c'est la phase de construction, de mise en marché, où là, on va plutôt aller chercher un financement en mode equity. C'est plutôt l'actionnaire qui va faire son travail. Alors on peut mettre un peu de financement. Il y a notamment sur l'éolien en mer, on fait des equity bridge ou des equity loans, donc c'est possible. Et puis dans l'innovation, il y a aussi quelle prévision du cash flow on va avoir une fois qu'on rentre en mode opérationnel. Pour ça, il y a peut-être deux outils supplémentaires en financement. L'outil obligataire. L'outil obligataire, ça permet de ne pas se diluer en termes de fonds propres. Donc pour un industriel ou pour une société de projet, c'est intéressant. C'est l'outil obligataire sur un projet innovant, ça reste relativement onéreux, mais moins onéreux que si vous diluez en fonds propres. Et puis la dernière possibilité ou solution que je voulais mentionner, c'est le venture loan. Alors ça se voit plutôt côté innovation des startups, vraiment de la tech, mais le venture loan, ça peut être aussi adapté sur des projets très innovants, alors un peu moins gros que sur des projets obligataires. Notamment, nous on travaille avec le FEI qui permet de financer et d'avoir une garantie de l'Europe sur des projets innovants. Ça peut par exemple être très adapté à des projets comme l'hydrogène, sur des petites unités hydrogène qui sont très innovantes. Et ça permet aussi d'avoir des financements qui soient dans les territoires. Et ça me paraît très important.
Justement, les territoires ont un rôle à jouer dans ce contexte.
Je pense que le territoire, de toute façon, il a un rôle à jouer, quel que soit le projet. On le voit bien dans les projets qui nous ont été présentés, hein, que ce soit à Saint-Nazaire ou que ce soit sur du flottant. En fait, à chaque fois, ces projets ils s'inscrivent dans le territoire. Et c'est très important qu'ils s'inscrivent dans le territoire, puisque avant tout, ces projets, c'est des projets industriels, des projets de compétitivité, mais aussi des projets qui permettent de décarboner notre économie et d'être quelque part plus souverain sur la partie énergétique. Donc c'est très important qu'ils soient dans le territoire. Il y a quand même deux gros enjeux liés au territoire, c'est l'acceptabilité des populations et l'intégration dans l'écosystème, sur lequel je crois que tous les développeurs travaillent, parce que c'est vraiment un enjeu clé, à la fois pour vos projets, mais aussi dans tous les tender process, ça fait partie de l'appel d'offres. Alors on a deux solutions, nous, auxquelles on a souvent recours quand on finance de l'éolien en mer. La première solution, c'est d'associer, et on travaille beaucoup avec les collectivités, donc c'est d'associer les collectivités. En Caisse d'épargne Normandie, on est la première banque des collectivités en Normandie, mais c'est de façon générale, on est le premier financeur privé des collectivités en France. Donc on est très proche des collectivités. Associer les collectivités, c'est associer le public, c'est associer ce qui représente la société autour de vos projets. C'est essentiel, ça participe vraiment à l'acceptabilité. On a une deuxième solution, c'est le crowdfunding. Le crowdfunding, on a monté une plateforme avec la région qui s'appelle Kiwaï, qui est une plateforme de financement participatif qui permet d'associer le citoyen à vos projets d'éolien en mer, mais à tous vos projets finalement innovants de développement durable. Alors, le crowdfunding, c'est pas tellement nouveau, hein, ça a quelques années. Nous, ce qu'on a fait avec la région Normandie, on garantit le capital et les intérêts. Et alors ça, c'est un game changer. Pourquoi ? Parce que ça permet d'associer tous les citoyens qui sont autour de vos projets. Et finalement, quand on développe un projet d'éolien en mer, le plus important, la première chose, c'est l'industriel, évidemment, mais la deuxième chose, c'est que ce soit accepté sur le territoire. Et typiquement sur le projet de Fécamp, hein, qui est un des grands projets en Normandie, on a fait un financement participatif, on a associé tous les citoyens, on a garanti, nous, la Caisse d'épargne Normandie, le capital et les intérêts, si bien que ça en fait un financement très grand public, qui a eu une très bonne couverture presse et qui a vraiment créé des ambassadeurs du projet. Hein. On a eu, je crois, 500 personnes vraiment de la région qui ont contribué. Non dilutif, donc facile à intégrer dans un pool. Il faut le prévoir dans la doc, évidemment, dès le départ. Mais ça permet vraiment de maximiser le retour sur le territoire et puis de faire un projet qui soit à la fois un très beau projet en termes de compétitivité. Et on le voit en France, on a des entreprises vraiment très, très à la pointe, hein, sur ces sujets. Donc un projet très compétitif, très concurrentiel, mais aussi particulièrement intégré dans l'écosystème et accepté par les citoyens qui sont en région Normandie.
Super, donc du coup il y a le financement, il y a les innovations, il y a tout ce qu'il faut.
Voilà, il y a tout ce qu'il faut, mais je crois que de toute façon, un grand projet comme ça, c'est faire la synthèse entre des industriels, des investisseurs, des financeurs, et puis évidemment un écosystème et des collectivités. Et si on aligne tout le monde, eh bien, on fait une équipe qui gagne.
Super. Bon, merci beaucoup. Merci d'avoir été ici sur la table ronde. Merci à vous d'avoir écouté, ici ou en ligne. Eh bien, bonne journée. Et nous avons un dessin, je pense. Ah oui, voilà. Il est là. So this is Fanny, who's been live drawing this while listening to our roundtable. Merci beaucoup. Voilà. C'est la moitié de la Tour Eiffel. It's the first ever offshore wind project in France that Mr. CHIFFOLEAU has been working on, and then you need to work together with citizens, with the local citizens and the people from the local area. There you go. Thank you very much, Fanny. Up next is a panel discussion on HSE, on health and safety, and I'm going to ask Maxime PACHOT, Ågot, HOLGERSEN and Xavier REITER to join me on stage. Hello. So we've got, what do you have? Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
The third person is still missing, not coming. Okay, so we've got Maxime PACHOT who's with us through a video link, and you got HOLGERSEN, you're here. I'm not on my own here. That's great. Maxime PACHOT, let's start with you. You're head of consultancy, Bright Future Marine Solutions. And we're going to talk about safety measures in offshore wind in the marine offshore sector. What would you say? To what extent can we actually afford to lower safety standards when it comes to offshore wind energy compared to the oil and gas sector that's also working at sea, obviously?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon to you all. Sorry for not being present here. Offshore being offshore, I was installing some wind turbines in the Baltic Sea and I couldn't make it. Sorry for that.
All right.
So yes, thank you for your first questions. Oil and gas has been the standard industry for a few years, and obviously it's an objective in quality of HSE management, but obviously the risks are not the same of installing wind farms and installing fixed or floating platforms for oil and gas. So there is a reasonable work to do, whatever the players in the industry, to assess what we can do compared to the management of risk with the installing the wind turbines, the wind foundations. Basically, a big comparison. When you install a wind farm or a wind farm, yes, you don't have the energy risk on site compared to oil and gas, where the energy is already there. Like crude oil is there, the gas is there. So when you try to take it, there is already a risk where when you try to install when you execute the installation of a wind farm, the energy is not there yet. You try to install where there is no wind. So obviously the risks are of different kind, but different level as well. So we really need to see the oil and gas as a asymptote that we never reach, but where the good ideas are, and we could select those good ideas applicable to offshore wind.
Right. Do you think that the people who work in the offshore wind sector are aware of the measures that need to be taken for them to be safe? I understand that in the oil and gas sector, there's a lot of experience already, and people are very aware that there are risks. Is that the case in the offshore wind energy sector?
I think this is this question is maybe the challenge one. Basically, many people working in offshore wind are not coming from the oil and gas, and this is where we have to change the mentalities a bit. Because as long as the installations are going okay, people are feeling that they are safe, but maybe they aren't safe. Farms are getting larger, bigger. They are going more offshore. The ships and all the equipment of the installation are getting bigger, and the risks are increasing with it. So what we'd like to do, at least very humbly at our level, is to educate the offshore wind people to raise up a bit their standards of HSE, showing that they sometimes have been developing bad habits in doing a certain manner. And we try to make the links between the oil and gas and offshore wind industries are basically very complementary in terms of HSE offshore, to show them that all the improvements can be already not created but just adapted from the oil and gas. So the challenge, the big challenge on the, let's say, the evolution of mentalities in offshore wind. But I'm sure that many players in offshore wind are already aware of that, and it's just a question of aligning the needs and the financials and the workforce internally.
And could you maybe give one or two concrete examples where people need to be more careful in offshore wind energy?
Yes, I will not give you a concrete, let's say, a concrete example, but I'm sorry. Some people are in the airport. I'm going to get some examples because people do know with whom I'm working, so I don't want to blame anyone here. But we've seen projects where we had to be way more present onto the deck than on other ships and other projects. So basically, working at high, carrying heavy loads, suspended loads overboard, working at night, and having SIMOPs, so simulated operations between ships at night with the wind extra. Some people were not really aware of the defectuous aspect of their system. People maybe sometimes are overconfident on the system they are using, and we need to be more humble facing some elements. You know, when the weather is getting a little harsh, we need to stop the jobs. So oil and gas, it's an automated habit to stop the jobs whenever it gets a bit harsh, where in offshore wind, they try to play with the line. So we need to remind the people that the weather is getting harsher, and then we need to stop the jobs. And sometimes it's quite hard to make understand.
That's certainly something that you, Ågot HOLGERSEN, you know from experience. You're a leader in safety and sustainability at Norwegian energy company Equinor. Your company has extensive experience in the oil and gas sector, and together with your partners, you are building the world's largest offshore wind farm, Dogger Bank, in the UK. Would you agree with Maxime just said, or tell us about your company's approach to HSE and offshore wind energy?
Yes, thank you, Lisa. And I think I can relate to a lot what Maxime is saying. So I think it's back to what is really safety. And I think I would like to ask you all here in the audience a question. Do you believe or do you hope to be home safely when you return from this conference? And I believe that you all will say yes, and that's what it's really about. It's to return home safely. And I think then, so health and safety should be a priority for offshore wind. And I have some key points. I don't know if the presentation is there. Maybe you can just take the next slide. I don't know how that was. I can just click there.
The green button.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, it's up there. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't see it. Yeah, no, so I have some key points for my presentation that I will go through, and I will just keep them up here all the time. I think a strong HSE performance, it builds trustworthiness and acceptability. And I have heard a lot of people mentioning the word acceptability, and I think a strong safety performance is important for acceptability. And of course, in HSE, the E, environmental is imperative, but here I will focus on the health and safety part of it, just to say that. So On the learning from oil and gas, I think there's a lot that can be transferred from oil and gas to offshore wind when it comes to planning, construction and operation of an offshore wind farm safely. Because the industry has several of the same risks as Maxime mentioned as well, like heavy lifting, manual handling, dropped object, marine operations, etc. And the oil and gas industry has worked continuously to improve safety over the years. And we see that continued focus on safety awareness is important for a strong day-to-day safety performance and the courage to say no, maybe, or stop if it's needed. So, but then, of course, offshore wind must adopt a risk-based approach and address the safety risks that are relevant for the industry. And together we can develop and adopt global and international standards and best practices to address those risks. And because we know standards gives predictability, and predictability is an important driver for safe work. And an example of standards could be GWO, the Global Wind Organization, and their safety training standards. And then in the program it was said it was safety, but then also focusing maybe on cost. And of course, using a risk-based approach can also reduce costs as the effort and costs are focused where the impact is greatest.
Right. And what kind of experience have you made so far when implementing these rules, these standards? Are you facing any resistance, or do people understand that they need to follow these rules? I mean, what is it like for you?
I think it's a continued effort to talk about it. You need to put safety on the agenda every day and create the awareness, as we do now. We speak about it, we talk about maybe issues, and that's the way you can work to improve safety. Right. And I believe also that then collaboration is very important, collaboration and experience transfer.
Right, okay. And are you, when you're saying you talk about that, do you have integrated modules in your training about health and safety when when you recruit people? Is there, because I know that is standardized in certain sectors, is that the case?
I think maybe it's back to that we need to have maybe standardized training that can help across the industry. So that is one example on how we work to create a good safety standard. So, but would you like an example maybe?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Because in the program it said how to avoid additional costs was one of the questions in the program. And I think I could share an example with you. An example where improved safety was the driver, but where we also increased revenue. So, and it is the design of a new, innovative and safe access solution in the offshore wind farm Dogger Bank in the UK. So back in the winter of 2017, our SOV at the Dudgeon field, another field, it nearly collided with the turbine. So luckily it all went well. But to make a long story short, together with suppliers and partners, we have used the learning from this incident to improve the design of our Dogger Bank turbine and SOV, and change the way we lift cargo from the vessel to the turbine and the manual handling of cargo into the VTG. So by doing so, we have reduced hazardous situations for people, and we have removed 1 million offshore lifts and 20,000 tons of manual handling. And the efficiency has over 10 years of craning time were removed. So we were freeing up time for other tasks. So I believe that's a very good example on how we can work together. When we see we have incidents, if we might have as many incidents within the same area, we can learn and improve and share experience across and work together as an offshore industry.
Well, that's fascinating, thank you. Our last participant has arrived, so please come onto the stage. You're Xavier REITER from, hello.
Hello.
You're in charge of, no worries, HSE at the French project Fécamp, the 500 megawatt offshore wind farm Fécamp. And I understand you are dealing on a day-to-day basis with lots and lots of rules. Do these safety rules always make sense? Is it always that straightforward for you?
Yes. Thanks of all. Thank you for inviting me to this event. It's something important for me and for EDF Renewable. Within the company, there is a philosophy to provide a strong HSE and an individual commitment to every employees and partner in order to reach our HSE objective, zero harm. To answer to your question, so yes, regarding rules and clarification needs to be applied to be bring to our colleagues, stakeholders, knowing that many of them are coming from the oil and gas industry. So I can say the three examples. Maybe I can start the first one with the training. So as per our HSE training requirements, to access to offshore vessel, we need to have training such as BOSIET. Or when we need to climb to offshore assets, it will be more GWO, Global Wind Offshore training. We can talk also about a second point that is a more link to the permit to work. So each contractor, most of them have a permit to work system on their vessels. But on top of that, we have our own permit to work led by the Marine Coordination. So after the documentation has been approved, they are checking and approving site access through this permit to work in order to coordinate any offshore activities or simultaneous operation. A third example I can give is related to the emergency. So every contractor have his own emergency response plan, but as per the French regulation as well, we have what we call a PIM, Plan d'intervention maritime, or a Maritime Intervention Plan. It's a kind of overall emergency response plan to coordinate the emergency offshore, on our offshore wind farm.
So I suppose that last part, when you work together with international suppliers, doesn't really make it easier for you.
No, neither, because we have our standard that is a basic standard in HSE, that is the HSE management plan, emergency response plan. We are also performing ASID. However, company needs also to adapt to the French regulation. Like, French companies that are going in international, we need to adapt to the country where we are going. So for that, today on Fécamp project, offshore wind farm, we are during the construction phase with the involvement of multiple companies. So it's enter into the classification of the French regulation called Decree 94. And because of that, we need to implement a few points that needs to be explained to our partners. So a few points that needs to be highlighted is the involvement of a third party called a safety coordinator. Also, we need to create a plan général de coordination. It's a general coordination plan. It's as known as HSE management plan in the industry. We also have the PIM I just mentioned earlier, the Plan d'intervention maritime, that is this overall emergency response plan. So this is as per the